Welcome to the Bureau of Citizen Detectives, the officially unofficial podcast for the Yellowjackets, or just Yellowjackets, know the, on Showtime. I'm Jim.
I'm Aaron.
And today we're talking season 2, episode 7, Burial. Aaron, a lot of good music in this episode, I gotta say.
Oh, man.
Couple of real bangers.
Yeah.
What'd you think of
jams?
What'd you think of the episode overall, though?
I liked it. Now I don't know if you will, because there's a certain part in the episode where I was just in the tank. It hit a David Lynchian gear that I found really, really interesting and expressive and liberating and funny and extremely well executed. And I could see if you're like, this is fucking weird. I don't know. And like, I feel like this show is just almost like expertly paced, just as people are like, I feel like getting impatient with like, when are we going to get to the cannibal stuff? When are we going to get to the really feral stuff? Like you can just see, at least I can, the slow spiral. And the savagery that we saw at the end of this episode kind of changed how I felt about Shauna. So yeah, I thought this episode was incredible. What about you?
Yeah, I really liked it. I know the part you're talking about, and I guess I didn't see that as Lynchian because I actually understood what they were trying to say. With Lynch, I tend to have no fucking idea what he's talking about because he's not talking about anything. He's trying to paint an emotional picture, but this I felt had a actual narrative, and that was maybe the standard. I guess I love what they're doing with Misty at all times. She remains my favorite character to watch. And I like the way they express her inner thoughts as sort of, weirdly cheerful and like, there's a darkness to everything that's going on. Like when she's, interacting with other people, or in this case, like interacting with herself, there's always that tinge of darkness, but it's like candy coated. And
it's very Tim Burton.
I really love it. I really love that character. Everybody else will have a vision and it'll be super fucking dark, right? Like Shauna's visions of everybody eating her baby, or the coach's visions of his lover leaving him and kicking him out of the house and all this stuff. And hers are just this weird saccharine sweet, but a bitter center to it all. I just love it.
It's even when she is feeling a regular human emotion like love, there's something unhinged and sinister about it. Yep. And you saw that like the phone call. Really ran off the rails about halfway through the voicemail. The voicemail. That's the worst part. Is a fucking voicemail. It can be played infinite times. Misty might have been at her mistiest this episode. The 30 seconds high stakes manipulation game she played on Coach Ben, where she was just like a lockpicker, desperately trying anything to open those tumbles and get the results she wanted. It's pathetic and it's a lot of fun. And
I'm a little frustrated with some parts of it, specifically the Lottie parts.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm curious to see where they go, but I'm frustrated with the character, I guess, because there is a definite turning point in this episode for that character, or there should be, and it's not addressed in any way. And I don't think that necessarily Lottie wants to get out there to her friends and say, I might be crazy and I'm experiencing these horrible things and I'm talking to myself and I'm encouraging myself to lean into the darkness. But she kind of needs to at this point. Like all her friends are gathering. She knows there's a doom coming about to happen here. She needs to say something to these people about what she's been going through. And they need to be questioning it. I mean, when you have the woman who was the girl who was sacrificing blood to the god of the wilderness, or to the wilderness itself, comes up to you with a cut open hand and a bandage on it, you got to start asking questions. Like, maybe we shouldn't trust the lady who's probably doing dark sacrifices again.
Are you making blood sacrifices again, Lottie? We're gonna have a blood sacrifice intervention if you keep making blood sacrifices.
In this situation, that is a perfectly reasonable question.
The thing is like I think they're painting a picture well of someone who is just very mentally and emotionally compromised. Like, she really wants in on this experiment. She doesn't want to stop it. So yes, it would be healthy to, say like, hey guys, just before we go on this like retreat, just want you to know that I've been seeing Antler Queen again as my therapist, and I'm off my but clearly part of the brakes being off is that behavior. The fact that she knows better, but she's deliberately not doing it because she likes this feeling. And I feel like that's something that from the friends I've had that I've had to have a severe kind of mental illness, where they have like, full on delusions and, what is it when you see something that's not there?
Hallucinations,
like they had these paranoid things. I like a lot of stuff that she said, like, rung true to my experience of like, one of the things that they struggle with is the feeling that at their most authentic, they're at their most authentic self when they're like on that manic spiral going up, like, oh my God, this is what, I feel like I'm full of energy and I'm super creative and I'm and, I felt like Lottie was saying all those things. Like, I feel like I'm like, I know it's not healthy and I know it's probably bad and people might get hurt, but God damn, I do miss the power and the freedom and the connectedness I felt when I wasn't medicated or I wasn't under treatment. And, so yeah, that kind of like her sabotaging herself because she wants to get back to that place and all of her friends coming back. It felt pretty realistic to me.
Yeah, well, her friends need to question things a little bit more. Yeah, and in some ways, like it's kind of working out for them. Like, I get the feeling that Lottie would be a good therapist if she weren't clinically insane. You know what I mean?
And offer meds, yeah.
Yeah. If she wasn't having these horrible visions, if she wasn't connected to some evil darkness, she might actually have something to offer to these people, because the therapies that she puts that she gives to these characters all kind of seem to work a little bit.
Yeah.
You have Shauna having sort of a breakthrough, or at least like a breakdown, which is like a first step to a breakthrough, I would say. You have Misty, who may or may not be on the right path here, but at least she's thinking about herself and her motivations. These therapies might actually work if she weren't also haunted by evil.
Yeah. That's the thing is like that, some of this stuff seems like kind of new agey and cringe to me, but for a lot of people, if you just got together in some kind of community experience and put something other than yourself and social media to the forefront for a while, it probably would make you feel a million times better.
Oh yeah.
Like long term, I don't know what the future of staying around the purple people cult and making honey and all that, but yeah, there's probably some, and I keep going back and forth about like how much therapeutic value versus how much of this is hogwash versus, and also there's some uncomfortable things where I can't help but draw a comparison between Lottie inviting Shauna to let her paint out on her and her making that same invitation to Lisa and Nat. And it's like, what if Lisa had taken her up on that? Has anyone ever taken her up on that? And did it go the way it went in the cabin back in the woods in 1996, 97? I think that stuff is really interesting. And and that's like really complicated storytelling.
Oh yeah.
It has me, like so many other things in the show, like going back and forth about like, until like 2 or 3 episodes ago, I was like definitely anti-Lottie. And then I'm like, you know what, pro-Lottie. And now I'm like, ooh, reluctantly pro-Lottie, but also, yes, this is all going to end terribly. Unless someone puts their hands on the train brake, and I don't think anyone's going to.
Yeah, who would? All right. Well, maybe it's time we got into the recap.
Oh, a couple of general things. The title, Burial. I thought that was pretty clever. You got any?
I mean, obviously the baby is the baby's corpse is buried. What else is burial?
But they're also going with repressed feelings and like burying experiences and trauma deep down. And I wonder how effective either one of them are going to be. And then finally, the description for this episode is Coach Scott does a great Carl Havoc impression for an unimpressed Misty. Now, if you don't know, Carl Havoc was a character on this crazy sketch show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave by Tim Robinson. And Carl Havoc is this skit where this I don't know, like a prank video guy puts on this enormous like fake rubber face, like Mission Impossible face, and this crazy outlandish clothes and this muscle suit, and he's supposed to go into a food court and just cause chaos, knock people's trays off and just be a loud asshole. And he gets there and the guy inside the suit has like this existential breakdown where he's like, I got it's like I got too much shit on my face and I don't know what I'm doing here and I don't want to be around anymore. And the guy's like, do you not want to be alive? I just don't want to be around anymore. I thought that was such a hilarious specific reference, especially down to I got too much shit on my face. I want to rip all this shit off my face with Coach shaving.
Yeah,
he had to get all this shit off his face. Bravo. And I can't wait till season 3 of I Think You Should Leave.
Yeah, it seems like a weirdly modern reference for this show, but sure, it's just in the description. It's not even really in the show. So
yeah, and I feel like it's all their descriptions are very meta. It's kind of like in a Rick and Morty way, where it's like almost like the fans of the show are like kind of writing these sassy, ironic descriptions, like very reverent. But you're right, like a lot of the stuff that they do and reference is more 90s.
Yeah, sure. But that's fine. Whatever.
Okay, now we can recap.
Okay. We start off in 1996. Everybody is snowed in the cabin. They're all moping. Nobody's talking. Shauna is refusing to, probably refusing to eat, but definitely refusing to drink after losing her baby. Lottie notices that the snow stopped. They pull the door open. Everybody's able to get out. And Ty invites Shauna outside for some fresh air, but I mean, she does get some fresh air, but as a side effect, she's able to lay her baby to rest.
Did she build the stone cairn over a natural geothermal vent?
Oh no. It's going to steam this baby to perfection.
She did a Paleolithic crockpot. Yeah. Yeah. Next episode, middle of the night. What's that smell? It's delicious. It smells like veal sous vide for 17 hours.
Say, what are they going to do with the next body? They're going to put it in a bag and try and throw it into the lake.
These are the most reluctant cannibals. They're like, look, we try to not eat these people, but the wilderness keeps cooking them. What are we to do? What are we to do? Just spit in the wilderness's face? I like how the bee Yellowjackets have that exact conversation later in the episode.
They do, yeah. Which is kind of ominous. I mean, knowing sort of where this goes, right? It's pretty ominous conversation.
I know we've asked ourselves a lot about like how deep we are in the winter, but it feels like we're still deep in the winter. This isn't like close to spring. This feels like
February, maybe. Like early
maybe
February.
Even January, like this, because it was days. The snowstorm lasted for days. That was kind of wild that they didn't go out at all for 3-4 days. To the extent that the door froze shut.
Buckets?
That's exactly what I'm wondering. Is Mario here dripping and sloshing and flow? Because like how? Of course, now they also don't have anything to eat.
Fair.
But I thought they'd open up the front door just to make sure it doesn't freeze off. Because when I see these 4 kids pulling on this door handle, like in a big chain, I'm like, how is this 100-year-old door going to stand up to, all these healthy teenage athletes yanking on it? Like I was expecting the doorknob to just snap off and then they're just stuck in there, but it didn't happen.
Nope. They're able to get out. I mean, they were never like truly snowed in. They could have always broken a window and gotten out or something, but
I guess I just thought it was weird that they didn't keep like a path open, like, hey, every couple hours someone go out there, scoop some snow away from the door, make sure there's a path through the shitter.
They're a bunch of teenagers. They've probably never been snowed in before.
Lazy fucking bum from Jersey?
No, not
way.
lazy, dumb.
Ah,
Inexperienced, let's say.
gotcha. I did like how they portrayed the girls as desperate for fresh air. It's like when that door cracked open, they're like, because it must have smelled close with the overflowing buckets and just the funk, the incredible funk. And that's all also warmed by a fire, an open fire the whole time.
Yep, it's probably pretty bad in there.
And a baby wrapped in fur for 4 days.
Yeah. I don't know how fast corpses decompose in the open air, but
there's not enough crockpot in the world to make that meat okay, right?
Probably not. Oh,
yeah.
Ah, well, what a waste. There's a really good track here, "Something in the Way" by Nirvana. This very like melancholy, like desperate kind of song. Really just set off that whole mood for that scene.
I really like that needle drop too. It did like just like, man, it just felt like it's just such a low ebb. Everyone is bumming so hard. What did you think of Shauna's place to put the baby?
The placement I didn't think much of. Is there something to it?
Well, I was worried that there weren't. She just like put a single layer of rocks over it. I'm like, is that enough to keep wild animals from disturbing the remains? I don't think so. I don't know if what the showrunners know about this kind of stuff, though.
Especially when you have Crystal's corpse disappearing this episode, right?
Right. That's very interesting too. And I also wondered if you have any kind of marker, is there going to be a scene where they come back for this later, or is there? Because like the other thing is like Shauna also said something to the baby. She says it's you and me against the whole world. Is she going to just have this like spirit relationship ongoing with like different dead characters? She's trying to channel Jackie, or is this an episode where she stops all that shit and she gets on board with Lottie's cult?
That's a very good question. I was trying to decipher Shauna throughout this episode, both in the 96 timeline and the current day timeline, because I feel like there's obviously like a lot of baggage with her child who died, but it's affecting her in interesting ways in the future. She's kind of keeping, her own daughter at a distance. And here she's kind of talking to this child as if it's still alive, right? Last episode, when it died after childbirth, she was saying, can't you hear it? Like still crying. She still hears this baby.
Yeah.
At the time I thought, okay, maybe this is like a metaphor or something, but I'm not convinced that Shauna doesn't actually think that this child is still alive in some way.
Yeah, the way she freaked out on them all, accusing them all of eating her baby and, doing things that are, I don't know, misinterpreting lightning crashes as a baby murder song. It's like, they're just...
I thought that for the longest time, too. That
it
was not about baby murder, but about a baby being born and the mother dying in childbirth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently it's not.
I always thought it was a circle of life, kind of like an old woman dying as a young baby's being born, and like this whole, circle of life type of deal. But yeah, I don't know. Is that a common misconception? Because like Cecily told me that she thought the song was about abortion. I'm like, there's like 4 or 5 different like alt songs about abortion in the 90s. Trust me, but this wasn't one of them. I didn't think. Had a Verve Pipe took a hit at one. I think Offspring did one.
All right. Yeah.
But I guess maybe
too.
everyone thinks this, and that's why Shauna snapped. It's like this is a baby death song.
Well, she clearly like between then and the current day has learned the truth about that song, which is that it's not about.
Or she doesn't freak out about it anyway. She's
right.
She forgot about all that. This is post-fight me and pre-fight me. That was a pre-fight me thing.
But I don't know. We'll see where that goes. I mean, she's talking to Jackie. She's acting kind of like this baby's still alive. Who knows?
That mood that they set with something in the way was continued with the intro. Like the intro was yet another remix of No Return that was a little bit more of a dirge.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who did that.
I felt like I might have been Alanis Morissette again, but then the chorus sounded a lot the original. So,
well, with as much Florence as they're using, it wouldn't surprise me if they brought Alanis in a couple of times.
I wonder if they'll get Florence to do No Return, or has she already done it?
I think she did it.
She did it, but she didn't do it officially on a show. It was like a pre-show thing.
Yeah, it was for the trailer.
Right. Well, they definitely need to roll that one out, maybe for the finale.
Mm-hmm. That'd be cool. All right, let's move over to the current day, where the new arrivals at Lottie's compound give up their possessions, and Nat explains why she's here and why they should be too, because it's time to start dealing with their shit. Which, I don't know, man. You say it's time to start dealing with your shit. I think your shit is going to start dealing with you if you're not careful.
I mean, it's the right thing to do to unpack your trauma and deal with it.
Sure.
And for the 99.9% of us that don't have a dark, evil, the wilderness that's subverting the process, it's a very healthy thing to do. Mm-hmm. It remains to be seen if this wilderness is a real thing on the show.
It certainly feels real currently. I feel like nothing specific has pushed it over the line for me, but I'm feeling like more and more it is a supernatural force.
I wonder if there's a theory that, like, it's always chilling in the old Exorcist where, like, the father's got the Bible out and he's saying all the right things and the demon's like, oh, you have no power, father, fuck you. It's like, oh, Jesus, you can't even get God in here and do that. I wonder if, like, as we become increasingly secular, you'll have that stuff with, like, like mental illness. Like, hey, I'm doing all the right things, but still... I'm fucked because I'm just not responding
it's not mental
to the
illness,
or whatever.
It's evil.
Well, plus it's like, there's a component of like individual's ability to apply to therapy and to make consistent progress. And, some people are everyone's got a different measure of mental and emotional strength, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, some people just aren't going to make it. Like that could be very scary in a postmodern, more secular world,
Yeah, you'll have to.
Because like we like to tell ourselves that as Americans, right? If anyone can make it, then everyone should be able to, right? If anyone, it's American dream. If anyone can get rich, then everyone should be able to get rich. But that's not how it works, and it's scary.
Yeah, sorry, it's a zero-sum game.
Right. And that's a system working exactly as intended. That's a system working as intended, which is creepy.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to 96. Ty is sad that the baby didn't make it, and she expresses that to Van. Van's having a crisis of her own here, though. She's wondering why she's still alive. What's her purpose? She survived all this shit. This is really not going to work out for her later in the episode. It's tragic, but it's kind of like hilariously ironic that she's wondering, I've survived all this stuff. It must be for a reason, and then she's just going to get cancer 25 years later and die.
Dude,
for what? For what?
That's why I was saying, like, I think there's some really great storytelling in the way they're weaving this stuff together. That, like, if your mind's being blown, I can see it. At 18 years old, got my face ripped off by a wolf. My friends almost cremated me. I fought back that, and to starve in this fucking cabin. Mm-hmm. And then to make it through that, and you set yourself up, and you got your VC, and you've got a measure of happiness, and you're going to die in your mid 40s to cancer after you've beat all this shit and chased women and ate them, and like that must be a fucking yeah. It must be a wild thing to process.
Yeah. Who's she gonna leave her video store to? Ty?
It's Blockbuster Incorporated. I don't know who
okay, yeah.
Who's the responsible owner in mid Ohio for a VHS store in 2023. But also it neatly answered all of our questions about, like, why is she so lackadaisical about her finances and stuff, and answered questions about the pills, everything. Yeah. And someone in feedback suggested that, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe, but right on. Get all your internet points. That was a right on prediction.
Mm-hmm. All right, back to current day. The new arrivals pick from the big list of therapies that Lottie offers. I think Shauna picks self-care, Van gets foraging, Misty has guidance. I forget what Ty's is.
Oh.
Do you remember the name of hers?
Yeah, I wrote it down later.
It's painting a barn with a makeup brush.
Renewal.
Renewal. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Did you notice this pattern of like people acting as if Misty isn't there? Like Misty calls dibs on forage and then Van just grabs it from her. Later in the episode, like Misty brings up their time in the wilderness and everyone's like shocked and appalled and instantly shuts her down. And then Nat, like a second later, is like, well, I kind of want to talk about it. And everybody's like, okay. Like they really negate Misty as a person even 25 years later.
Yeah, some kind of residual like pecking order, I guess, on the team. Like Misty gets
just
last
like instantly
pick.
They fall back into like Misty thinks she's superior to them and she's like the mother hen and she's bossing them around and protecting them, but like they see her as just this weird, annoying, kind of scary person. But like, who do you think? Okay, as of right now, who do you think the scariest Yellowjacket is?
The scariest?
By either timeline's judgment.
God, they're all so scary. They've done a really good job making them all really scary in their own ways. To me, it's Lottie because she feels like she's starting to give in. She wants to see where this all goes. And I think that's extremely dangerous. Both. I mean, it could be dangerous for the entire world. I don't know how powerful this wilderness thing is, but definitely for a team.
Or if it indeed exists. What I feel like after this episode, I got to throw Shauna's name in the hat.
Yeah, they made her a lot scarier this episode
because she's the one Yellowjacket that seems to kind of like enjoy it. She likes the violence and kind of seeks it out to get pleasure from it. Yeah,
at times.
Every like Dark Tai is the closest, but she's like, I think the violence and creepiness is a means to an end, and there's something to what. Who was it? Was it Van? No, it's Taissa, or no, it was Lottie that said that, like, you know, that Dark Tai is maybe acting out and being violent because you're trying so hard to repress her, and she's like fighting for her life, and that makes a lot of sense. But like Shauna just, you know, you put together her stabbing her boyfriend, her taking her van back at gunpoint and licking her lips as she's doing it. And you see her just like viciously beat Lottie. It's like, wow, that's it's a lot different picture they're painting of her than they were last season, where she was just like, oh, she's the housewifiest of all of the jackets.
Yeah, and I think that's very intentional. They were hiding the true damage that Shauna's had.
Power level.
And this is kind of the season where we get to see all of Shauna's tragedy and anger and the dark side of her. And she's also the most physically formidable of the group. I don't think anybody could stand up to her physically, whether in the 96 timeline or the current day.
Maybe Van in 96. Van or Prime, if she's not like, you know, shot through with cancer and on medication. But like, Van was fucking pretty formidable physically too. I think she could take her.
She was.
But everybody else,
interesting thing
she's
is like,
fold up like
she's
a lawn chair.
She's can be physically intimidating to the other team members, but Lottie has this hold on her even, right? And I don't think Shauna before this episode would acknowledge it at all. She'd probably be very resistant to that idea. But there's something about this therapy she goes through here which kind of cracks a shell on her emotions. And I think I don't know, there's a weird respect for Lottie that I think they're getting at. And I don't know if that's going to happen in 96 after, you know, she kind of beats the shit out of her. Maybe she's going to feel bad about that and start giving her more credit or something. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, we'll definitely talk more about it later, but like a lot of that stuff that Lottie seems doing is like either intuitively or accidentally a great step to build like stronger links in your cult. You know, she's like doing the right thing politically to increase her position and the way that people rely on her. And like individually, it's like she's not working at wholesale. This is retail transactions, just one-on-one. You know, what can I do for you? I can help you sleep. I can repair your relationship with your partner. I can give you peace. Yeah, there's like, and for Shauna, she offered this outlet, and you got to think that's going to bind her a little bit. Like, how can Shauna hate Lottie after this?
Right. I mean, even if it's just a bond through shame, like, oh, I hate how I acted there. I took it out on you.
Exactly.
It's going to bring them closer. So, yeah.
Toxic and codependent, but that's still that can be a very tight bind. Yeah.
Totally. So Shauna gets her self-care therapy, which involves taking care of Bruce the goat for the whole day. She's very resistant, but they are very pushy. It's either this or you can clean the shit out of the barn all day. The alternative is not mucking the barn all day. The alternative is, how about neither of these? How about I just stand here and see make me do it?
Who mucks a barn all day? An 8-year-old? Like, there's a finite number of barn and muck to be like, this is something you can knock out in like half hour.
Half hour, okay.
If you're the only, I mean, if it's a big barn and you're the only one do it an hour or two, but like muck out all day, get out of here. Go visit a farm. Did you recognize the goat wrangler?
No.
So he was one of Drummer's husbands in her poly ship of pirates on the last season or two of The Expanse. Yosef.
Now that you say it, yeah, totally.
Yeah, if you just close your eyes and think about your geometrical face tattoos.
Put him in a space
right
suit.
There.
Space jumpsuit. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of joking about, like, how about neither? But at this point, she's doing it for Nat, right? Because Nat had this speech to everybody, like, look, I'm here. It's helping. I think it would help all of you. Can we please just do this for me for a little bit?
Give it a good faith effort, you know?
Yeah, so if she said no to this, she would essentially be saying no to Nat, and I don't think she wants to do that here.
And is Nat the one person who's kind of good in everybody's hood?
I think so.
You know, like if anything, there's a big beef between her and Lottie, but that would make her, it's like kind of like in a way that only Nixon can go to China. Like, her stumping for Lottie, the person who she's got the most wilderness beef with, is probably a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah, I think so. That has all but been taken care of in the current day timeline here. So yeah, I think everybody is good with that. I certainly am. Then we move back to 96. Coach hallucinates that Paul is here in the wilderness with him, kinda, or he's in a half wilderness house. It's hard to tell. The visions are getting very timeline blurry. And Paul tells him that he's not welcome here anymore. Coach doesn't understand what he did to cause this, but he gets some clarity when he realizes that he's chasing a ghost, and the girls have noticed.
Couldn't help but notice when Ben walked out on the front porch, Coach Ben, he had the antlers behind him.
Yep.
Coach Ben throwing his beanie into his cap into the Antler Queen race.
It's fairly clear that this is just a marker of influence of the wilderness, right? At this point, like, nobody actually thinks Coach is going to be the queen, the Antler Queen.
Well, I mean, I haven't read all the Reddit threads, but like, I think it's definitely. Okay. I think it's like they got the horns. They got the horns up there so Lottie can stand in front of them every once in a while. Sure. But they can't take them down just any time someone comes out the front door. So yeah.
But you also don't have to shoot from dead straight on.
True.
At that height for that character to line them up perfectly, right? They're intentionally doing it. It's a matter of what it means. And to me, it's a marker of the wilderness influencing people.
Let me ask you this. What percentage of this scene that we see unfold in front of Coach was a fantasy versus how much of it was him remembering an actual conversation or an actual breakup that he had with Paul? Because I kind of got a little flavor of, like, this might have been where Paul finally says, like, you know, it's kind of like, you're not ready to come out. I'm tired of this being the place that you hide, like my apartment. And you're not, like, it kind of felt like that. But I also could see this, and it's definitely played as, like, also you're like him trying to stay alive was him being in denial. and making that. But like, do you think that there was like a real conversation between Paul and Ben that went kind of like this?
I think it's totally possible, based on what little we do know about that relationship. But I've been reading everything that's been happening since that one scene we saw where he chose not to go to the wilderness. I've been reading everything after that as like a fantasy of his.
Interesting.
But I don't know if that's the correct reading.
They keep on more and more tightly. Like, it's like last episode, it was Paul's apartment with like the wilderness fireplace and Paul's apartment with the wilderness drapes and windows. Now it's like the wilderness cabin with Paul's lamps and phone on the wall.
Yep.
I think that's really interesting. I'm not exactly sure what side of what scale they're trying to put their thumb on.
I feel like that's him sort of giving into the wilderness. Like everybody in this episode is urging everybody else to do.
Well, and the VHS distortion effect started off pretty subtle and easy to miss, and now it's like jarring and intrusive. I haven't seen this much VHS skipping and tracking since like the Blair Witch Project. Is the VHS glitching the wilderness?
I don't know what the VHS filter is all about.
It's really weird. I still think he's the only character. Like I don't know. Is that true? Is he the only character that's having these type of glitches?
It seems to be, yeah. I can't think of anybody else experiencing the VHS
thought that maybe
filter.
There might have been one Nat scene that they did it on or something like that, or like a Lottie scene. Does Lottie get the VHS static when she starts seeing her apartment or her cabin as the therapist office?
I don't think so. I think it's just cuts. Hard cuts.
I like how he resolves, like he smiles and resolves to be fine as the music goes slowly unhinged. You know? Oh
yeah, his eyes like bulge out, and he's got this really disturbed look on his face.
And the soundtrack just curdles. They do really good work orally on this show.
Let's head back to current day. Misty's taken to her guidance therapy, which is actually just a float tank. She gets real nervous and excuses herself to go to the bathroom and then sneaks off.
I like how Misty... What's Misty's deal? She's afraid to be alone with herself because she just manufactures all the other concerns. Oh, I couldn't figure out the lock. There is no lock. You crazy. It's just a tank, you know. It's just...
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. Does she not like water? Does she not like darkness? Does she not like being alone with her own thoughts? And I think it's the latter.
Damn.
But I'm not really sure why, because she seems pretty self-assured.
But is it real? Or
no,
is it something...
I don't think so, because of all the, pathos we're seeing as a teenager.
Yeah, it seems like it's still, even as an adult, a carefully constructed facade that could crumble if anyone looked at it from the wrong angle. So, and like, if anyone knows it deep down, it's got to be Misty. So,
and she can usually distract herself with something, but in that float tank, it's going to be just her.
But it's right, but it's wild because her fears are totally unfounded. It turns out that like when she's alone with herself, she just has unlimited self-regard in the form of like her parrot Caligula.
Right.
Yeah, every once in a while we have people write in and be like, we don't even watch the show that you're covering. We just like listen to your podcast. Like, I like thinking like how those like sentences just drop. Like, what the fuck? Did he say his parrot Caligula? Yeah.
Right. Is helping her work through her mental issues.
Yeah. No, it seems she should spend more, even more time meditating. It turns out, no fears,
Apparently.
No fears to be alone with yourself, Misty.
Yeah, there's some stuff they do with Misty that's real subtle later, but we'll get there. For now, let's go back to 96, where Misty overhears the girls talking about her. They think she did an amazing job with the baby situation, but only because she's psychotic. Mari thinks she probably killed Crystal because she's not even out looking for her. So Misty goes inside and announces to the group that they should all be out there looking for Crystal. Coach and Lottie agree. And as the others search, Pink Hat Girl and Jen, I guess her name is.
Jen and Melissa.
Oh, Pink Hat Girl has a name? Melissa?
Yeah, Melissa.
All right. They're kind of hoping that they find Crystal as a delicious meat sickle. And Misty overhears that.
Yeah. Not just not because they want to, but like you don't want to waste the wilderness's bounty, right? It's disrespectful.
Right? Yeah, disrespectful. Is this how it starts? Is Lottie going to sort of embrace this philosophy of not wasting the gifts of the wilderness, or is this going to kind of spin out of her control?
Well, I've seen the season premiere of season 1. I think the latter. I think there's definitely going to be some spinning out of control. There's going to be some headdresses. There's going to be some hunting, some pits and impalement.
Yeah, well,
some rotisserie. Yeah,
that assumes that Lottie is kind of the leader of all that.
Maybe that's her. Maybe that's super controlled, though. That's super controlled. There's rules, ritual. That's not out of control. That's not madness. That's deliberate. That's structured. Yeah. That's making order out of a chaotic world, Jim. And I'm here for it. I support these women on their journey.
So this is what I mean. Like, who's going to be at the top of the pecking order, I guess? Is it going to be Lottie, which it's looking more and more like it is? Or is it going to be something that gets away from her and somebody else becomes the Antler Queen? And
I think between the deck of cards dealing out chores and punishments and the line about the queens emerging each spring and having to duel for supremacy, that there is going... I don't know whether it's a rotational type of deal where it's like, we have ritual performances where here's the Antler Queen and here's the Huntress and here's the Butcher and here's the Baker and everybody else is potentially prey. And we do... And I don't know if it's going to be like democratic like that or random, or if it's going to be a struggle for supremacy the way the Queen Bee... I think it's going to be the latter. But what does Lottie's struggling look like? Like, it seems like it's a very Jesus turn the other cheek kind of strength, which is formidable.
It's winning hearts and minds, right?
Yeah, nonviolent resistance is very powerful if you can manage it. And
it's more managing her image, if nothing else, right?
Right.
Like, what do these people see me as?
Do you think it's that cynical? Because whenever we've seen the interior glimpses of Lottie, she seems very unsure of herself and like as mystified that this stuff works as anyone, but also comes back to like, this shit seems to work. So, and having her mind chemistry.
She's not like telling these people, oh, I don't really know what's going on. She might be having those internal doubts, but when she's speaking to the others, she's speaking very authoritatively.
It seems like it's a reflex. Like when something happens, she just like, it's like, she hears something whispering to her and she just blurts it out. And then when someone calls her on it, then she's like, oh God, yeah, maybe I don't know what I'm talking. Like, but like when she's just in the moment, she just kind of flows into that position. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting seeing people resist this because she seems to be winning everybody over, right? I think the only person, maybe two people who are resisting right now are Shauna and Nat.
Yeah.
Because she's basically won over Ty at this point.
Yeah.
So
practically speaking,
know where it goes from
I
here.
do think there's a little bit of a rift in that alliance now because it didn't work.
Yeah.
Like Lottie, I think the narrative coming out of this is Lottie shit out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we thought that last episode too, and nobody was concerned that the baby didn't live, right? Like she makes the statement here that the wilderness gave us in this scene. The wilderness gave us what we want. Shauna lived, and I'm thinking that wasn't what you wanted. You wanted the baby to live as well, and the wilderness didn't give you that.
She's kind of retconning it, yeah.
But nobody's pointing that out. Not Shauna, not Ty, not Nat, nobody.
But like, I wonder if she's trying to say like deep down, like, yeah, it'd been nice to have the baby, but like, would any of us traded the baby and not Shauna? Because what the fuck,
Sure.
We got another mouth to feed and one less person to feed it,
and no butcher. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah, who's going to pull the skin off our corpses now?
Mm-hmm. Apparently, you just eat the skin. You just dive right in if it's perfectly cooked.
Yeah. I don't know. Lottie says a lot about the wilderness, but like, how does she? I also wish people would say like, how do you know these things too? But she'd do like, well, I listen. I've spent more time listening, which is why I'm more attuned to it. Yeah,
it hears us, we hear it. That thing.
But man, who the actor that's playing the young Crystal, the young Misty, I think is fascinating because the way she plays this, like she's like vibrating with pleasure. at these girls finding her useful and like you know, when Aquila says like, man, she was like a rock, I would have freaked out, I would have never been able to. And then like when Mari comes back with the darker, it's like, well, yeah, but like, isn't it weird that she's not worried about a friend? And just watching her face and then her carefully constructed performance versus like you see, because like this is obvious performance she's putting on about like, you guys, now that I know we're all sad about the baby, we got to go find, and then like all throughout, and then her breakdown later on, and then but you also see her do a genuine emotional display. It's really incredible work. It's a lot of fun to watch,
and the fact that she's like taking parts of Crystal, right? Because Crystal was the one who taught her to act, and now she's doing that in order to cover over the fact that she basically killed Crystal. It's
there's a lot of the talented Mr. Misty in this. Yeah, she's definitely taking parts of. Yeah.
For sure. All right, Shauna burns the blanket with the symbol and her blood on it as she remembers the other girls eating her baby, which never really happened, but boy, she thinks it did.
Yeah. Yep. And good for her. Good. Burn that bloody cult blanket.
Yeah.
Get out of there.
All right. Tai, Lottie, Misty, Aquila, and Mari all go searching for Crystal. Lottie asks Tai to use whatever power she has for finding people to find Crystal. She says she can't because she hasn't been sleepwalking since she joined those prayer circles. And she really hopes that means the dark Tai is gone, and Lottie hopes the exact opposite.
Makes you wonder how Lottie has plans, because like Tai's essentially saying, look, your shit helped me get rid of Dark Tai. And Lottie's like, we need Dark Tai back. Yeah. So like hanging out with Lottie made Dark Tai go away. How is Lottie going to bring Dark Tai back?
That's a very good question. And I'm wondering, you know, how it relates to the current day stuff with Dark Tai being back.
Yeah.
Did Lottie have something to do with that? Or was that all like Travis inviting the darkness in?
Dude, by the end of this episode, I was actually kind of shocked that Lottie survived. You know, if we hadn't seen Lottie at the late last season, well, actually, no, early this season, after this episode, I would assume there's no way Lottie makes it out. She's going to be the catalyst that like transforms the group at like a catalyst. She's going to be used up and burnt into transformation. Like just the beating she got, but like also there's something passive and, you know, like I said, the non-violent about her resistance. But it also flies in the face of what her Vision Antler Queen told her. Like, I thought that where she's like, you know, of what a hunt without violence feeds no one. You know, that's an inherently violent concept. It was wild. Like, is the Antler Queen Lottie's dark side? So far, it's been like the Laura Lee side of, you know, this kind of sunshiny, woo-woo religion thing. But, like, is there a dark side? And is that the Antler Queen? Maybe there's a transformation in Lottie. You know, I know there's still like that's endless fascination in all the analysis is who's the Antler Queen, who's the Antler Queen. I thought it was telling that when Lottie was literally talking to herself and affirming herself, what she saw at the end when like the scales fell from her eyes was the Antler Queen. Yeah. It's hard for me to believe it's somebody else at this point.
Yeah, and I mean the context of that scene is she's been talking to herself, right? She's convinced herself to let the wilderness in, the darkness. Exactly. So yeah, seeing that is kind of tipping the scales in that direction. But
saying that, like, if new shit comes to light, I'll be happy to be wrong. You know, if the Coach bin equals Antler Queen in theory turns out to be right, then fair enough. But all signs point to Lottie, except for the ones that are over Ben's head in this episode.
Yeah. All right, go back to current day. Tai's getting impatient with her therapy. She tells Lottie she's sleepwalking again and needs help. And Lottie says, embrace the darkness. Oh, boy.
It's exactly what her dark self says to her. You know, you were never, when you were out there with those women, you were never more free. You were never your truest self. But the thing is like, I do believe in the shadow work. I do believe that that's like, you know, a lot of it can be therapeutic to like make peace with the parts of you that you've always been ashamed of, or the parts of you that you've repressed, or the parts of you that you thought are ugly, or, you know, embarrassing, because those are probably the parts that you do get, like the fire in your belly, your strive to compete and to win and to improve, and to protect and defend, all that kind of stuff. But like, man, are there? It's like I don't. But it's like there's got to be limits. Like you wouldn't ever tell a serial killer, hey, you need to integrate. You need to do some shadow work. But maybe you would. Fuck, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just saying it's weird to see someone as disturbed and have these this background as Lottie dispensing this advice. Like, yeah, at least you should just punch Nat in the face, or yeah, Ty, you should. I know your dark self has sacrificed a family dog and put your child at risk and alienated your spouse, but maybe you should just give her the wheel.
Mm-hmm. No, it's not something you want to see happen, but it's definitely understandable with where Lottie's at. She's telling herself this. Why wouldn't she tell the others?
And maybe if Ty stops trying to repress this dark Ty, maybe she can integrate, you know? That's the dream, maybe. But what's that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Seems
but I don't know how you integrate the dog sacrifice into an authentic, you know, identity.
I don't know. I mean, it really sets up an interesting, I guess, past future. Like, what's going to happen in 96 after this? How do they go from this group of girls who are, you know, stressed and starving, but still kind of a team, to this full-on cannibal cult? And how do they come back from that when they get rescued? And I think that it's super fascinating. They're painting a picture where, like, maybe, and I look at Misty as kind of a microcosm of this and why she's so different from the others. It's approval seeking kind of behavior at the beginning, and I wonder if that kind of carries through. And as she gets more approval and they sort of, like, you know, Lottie encourages everybody to be their truest self out here in the wilderness. There are no rules. We're going to make the rules. We can, you know, let's hear the wilderness and let the wilderness hear us for what we truly are. If Misty doesn't come through this feeling like that is, like, holding on to her truest identity, whereas the other girls kind of suppress it when they get back, because they're ashamed of the things they've done, whereas Misty is not, because A, she's getting positive reinforcement from the other girls in a lot of ways. They're saying, oh my God, look what a rock she is. But also she might just be a little like more messed up than the rest of the girls, right? Like, where she thinks that the things they did in the wilderness are actually a positive and okay thing.
Yeah. I wonder what role what role did Misty play out in the wilderness? Like, right now she's their kind of medic.
Their fixer,
she's got a macabre, or their fixer. She's got this macabre fascination with, like, death and stuff, and it's caused her to really study it and pay attention, and you know, things that people are squeamish about, she's embraced. But, like, what does that look like when they're all wearing headdresses? Like, what role in the tribe does she fulfill? Because, like, right now she's like this weird trickster demon that
I assume she'll be the one, like, creating and setting the traps and, like, that kind of thing. Or, I mean, Nat and Travis could be that too, because they're the hunters. Because, like, Nat's the hunter, and Shauna seems like she's the butcher, and, you know, Ty's doing, like, she seems like leadership material. She's going to be one of the Dark Queen struggling for supremacy. I don't know how Misty fits in with this. I don't know. The time out in the wilderness might break her more than others, because she feels and is directly responsible for everything that goes on out there, essentially. Yeah. Without destroying that transponder, there's a very high likelihood they would have been rescued. And so she's taking all of this personally, and it's got a much higher potential to just make her truly psychotic. Well, just and that's break her. The rose-colored view of her, like, you know, the African gray, the Caligula view of, like, well, you're a closer, Misty. You get things done. Is that, like, half the things she closed, she starts herself. Yep. You know, she causes these crises to happen, and then fucks things up, and then fixes the fuck up. It's like, well, that's not heroic.
And I think that's where there's something inauthentic about the revelation she had about herself.
Totally. Yeah.
Or it's a halfway. It's like, you know, it's you're not really doing the shadow work, because what you're doing is you're reimagining your shadow as light, and that's not how that works.
No, it feels like the other characters have like this one defense, which is kind of ignoring the pain that they feel. Misty has several layers of defense, and one of them is subconscious, right? She's built up all of these layers of her mental armor, and we haven't even gotten past the first layer here.
Yeah.
Like the float tank is threatening, but not really, because she's so well fortified against any self-examination.
That's a good, because like is that her authentic self? Because it seems like it's her deepest fear. Like she expresses to Caligula in that scene. You know, do people just see me as this pathetic, lovesick murderer? And he's like, no, you're a closer. But then, like, she does seem like she's a desperate, lovesick murderer. That's you know.
Yeah, that's her fighting against the self-examination. Totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, Misty finds we're still in the current day. Misty finds Shauna in the woods. She lost her goat. They go look for it together. Misty makes some jokes about Shauna being a murderer, and Shauna gets offended. Surprise, surprise. They snipe at each other for a bit. Then Shauna finds the goat, and the cult finds Misty.
Shauna, were you even trying with this goat?
No.
How did she lose Bruce? Bruce is tied up 10 feet away. Is she just disassociating there in the woods, like just zoned out?
I think so, yeah. I wonder what she's thinking about. Is she thinking about her relationship with Callie and all this stuff, and Bruce, and is that what's
she's really
going through her head, distracting her?
It's just white noise going on inside there, but like,
it could be.
I don't know. know. Maybe she is actually thinking about her life and how fucked it is. It's interesting that she legitimately believes that Lottie's going to have her kill this goat. That this is kind of like that old urban legend about the SS officers. You know, they on day one their basic training, they're given a German Shepherd puppy, and then the last day of training, you got to break that puppy's neck just to show how committed they are to the Reich, right? That like doing this kind of cult thing. And it's weird because like that's why I think Lottie must go places, because for Shauna to think that Lottie would institute something like that, you know, that there's been nothing that Lottie that was suggested she would like have people kill animals to like toughen them up or something. If anything, that's like an anti-wilderness thing. It's like that's not very much listening. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes, because there is an element of sacrifice, you know, she cuts open her hand and says, "Let this be enough." That maybe it goes places where they are sacrificing animals and people and all sorts of stuff.
And Lottie, the peacemaker, the self-sacrificial lamb, the Christ-like one, is going to turn into like something more vengeful or darker. Because I was saying, like, that's like what Shauna expresses is something that like someone who doesn't know Lottie except by reputation would think about her cult. You know, like, oh my God, those girls are out there in the can of the, you know, it's like, oh my God, and it's just judging by what I know of Lottie so far, that like that you would think that she was going to like have you torture an animal to death at the end of it. But like, either that is an element of Lottie that we haven't seen yet, or Shauna's projecting.
Yeah,
because she has a real breakdown, but also I think this is one of the things that doesn't really connect with me, is they're definitely trying to connect her feelings about the goat with her feelings towards Callie. That like, I can't allow myself to care for this very cute goat, and then even in a way of as a self-care, because I am afraid to take anything in like that, because I'm afraid to be a mother. I'm afraid everyone that I care about will die. But like, I didn't quite feel like they made that point to my satisfaction. That makes sense? Yeah,
I'm with you. I don't think this episode 100% nailed everything it was going for, but
there's something inauthentic about what Shauna was expressing and feeling, I thought. But I don't know. There's probably going to be a lot of people in feedback take me to task for that. But
Yeah, it felt like the episode was trying to do the heavy lifting for what the acting should have been doing in those scenes, or what the. I guess they were using the multiple timelines to do the heavy lifting, whereas I felt like they should have used both timelines to that effect. I didn't really see it in this timeline, this current day timeline. She's just given a goat, she's out in the woods, and suddenly she's breaking down about Callie. It didn't. Yeah, it didn't all connect perfectly.
I've seen that's the thing, is like there's been so many times where you got genuine displays of emotion juxtaposed with acting, you know, and then sometimes like in the police station last week we saw her do both. We saw her tell a version of the truth, an emotional truth to kind of sell the overall lie she was saying, and like I felt like a lot of her talking about the goat felt like the latter more than like a genuine thing.
Yeah.
But also it could be that, like, you know, Lottie does have a bunch of sacrificial blood tests that she puts people through, and we just haven't seen that yet.
It could be. Let's go back out to the woods in 1996, where Misty pretends to be too sad to search for Crystal. So Aquila sends her back to the cabin. Misty heads straight for the cliff where Crystal fell to her death. And then we just kind of see Coach fall in the snow and get back up.
Yeah, it's a weird connection they made between Coach Ben's scene and the Shauna, because it kind of goes like blurry vision and then coalesces back into the meat shack. I thought that was weird how they connected those. I really like
this episode has some of the worst fake snow I've ever seen. Like, this shit is styrofoam. It's literally like they took styrofoam flake and broke it up. It's very bad. You know what it is? It's like when you go to fucking Michael's or something and you're buying the bad Christmas garland, and it's dusted with the snow, the fake snow.
It's been flocked. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just used a whole bunch of that. It looks terrible.
Yeah, they've done a decent job with it thus far. I guess they've, and then there's also the idea that like this is drifted 4 feet, 5 feet up in the cabin, and Shauna's just walking down a path, and the snow's not even ankle deep. Like, no. But what are you going to do? Have the girls fashion 20 pairs of snowshoes?
Right.
Spend 3 days digging out their paths. Like, I get it, but it did take me out. There's a lot of sloppy snow work. Yeah.
It's unfortunate because especially in that scene where Coach falls, I'm just like, it's so bad.
I want to go back to the previous scene with Misty. I thought there was a really interesting reaction that Misty had, because Misty seems to suffer in the illusion that the other Yellowjackets think that they're perfect. Because that was like Misty's weapon that she reaches for. She's like, you know, well, you act like you're so innocent, and like, you know, Shauna just fixes her with his glare and's like, I know I'm not innocent, Misty. And like Misty seemed like very taken aback, like that was a new thought to her, that like everybody else might have like, yeah, we know we've done terrible, repugnant shit, and we just kind of like processed it. I don't know that Shauna would describe herself as a good person. It sounds like she sees herself as a very damaged person. Where like Misty's still trying to cling to like, nope, I'm actually normal and healthy and strong, and I don't have none of this. These are all deliberate choices that I'm making. None of it's repressed trauma.
Yeah, which, you know, stands out as a marker of actually being the most damaged person there.
Yeah.
All right, we go over to Shauna, who tries to get Jackie to talk to her. Of course, Jackie's not there. She's talking to a corner of the meat shed, and she gets her cry on out there.
Yeah, she really loses her shit. Do you think Jackie's ever going to return now that she's been eaten?
I don't know. I was trying to think what it says that Jackie won't come to her in a vision here. What they're trying to paint is a picture where Shauna is all alone, right? Because like she was sort of getting a little bit of comfort from Ty, and then Ty during childbirth was chanting along with the rest of them, right? She has no one she can lean on, no one she can talk to. And now Jackie is gone. But I don't know what that says about her. Like, why can't Shauna summon Jackie in this scene?
She doesn't have that good of an imagination. She can take a corpse and pretend that it's and with terrible makeup and pretend that it looks good, but she can't.
Forgot what Jackie even looked like.
She can't conjure something from nothing. I think it's interesting because like they could be suggesting that Lottie's unconventional therapeutic approach in the cabin is going to work, and like Shauna is just going to like, you know, we're going to jumpstart the grieving process, and we're going to get you through all 5 stages with this like display of violence. Mm-hmm. We're just going to purge you. You know, you don't have to worry about you moping and starving to death. You're going to be ready to go. And I guess I'm going to be looking to see like if I see any like dream sequences or fantasy sequences of Shauna like talking to Jackie while she's nursing her baby. I want to be like, oh no, she's still crazy. Which I think I already know the answer to that because I've seen her in 2023. So.
Yeah, I don't know that the Lottie therapy is going to be super effective. I mean, maybe it'll get some anger out, but my God, would it induce some shame? Mm-hmm. You got to feel bad about what you do to Lottie in that scenario, right?
Which might be the effect that Lottie subconsciously wants. She sees that
give her power over
non-believer Shauna. That I have no in over, so I'm going to go all in. And yeah, if she feels guilty or ashamed, then even better. That suits me.
Mm-hmm. Ugh, it's so sleazy. I hate it. All right, current day, Shauna tries to get someone to examine her goat after it apparently ate a shitload of rope. But nope, it's her responsibility. So she decides, I'm going to take this up with Lottie. And when she does, she has an emotional breakdown over how she's treated Callie all her life. Seems like this therapy is getting through to Shauna.
I thought it's funny how she's like, look, I know you said a goat is my care, but it just ate like 12 feet of rope. You took my phone away, so I can't look up on Google. I don't know that that's unhealthy for goats, but all I'm going off of is old cartoon memories. And I'm like, that... Because I clearly remember this Reading Rainbow episode that horrified me as a child, where LeVar Burton is in this cafeteria that's manned entirely by goats, and he's ordering lunch, and they're giving him things like, he's like, well, I'll take the blue plate special, and the goat gives him a blue plate, and the other goats are like eating tin cans and rotten tomatoes and all this other crazy shit. And the reason I was horrified is because the goat people makeup just they look like monster people. And they got little hoof hands, and it's all fucking crazy.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I always got the idea that like goats can literally eat anything. Mm-hmm. But is that true? Or is that like, oh, salamanders are regenerated by fire because when we go out and stir up the coals in a fire, a lot of times salamanders come out because they came in trying to get warm. But we think fire is like, can goats really eat tin fucking cans? Can eat ceramic plates? LeVar Burton, did you lie to me?
I've assumed the same as well. I don't know if it's healthy for them to. I guess I'm with Shauna here. Like, I've definitely seen them do it, and not just in cartoons.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that goats can eat tin cans. They can chew up.
Well, I've heard that they preferentially eat like poison ivy. Like if you have like poison ivy on you're supposed to get a goat because they love eating poison ivy. So it's like, is that reputation for them eating inedible plants? Then it's like, oh, they'll eat anything.
Right. Oh, you got car tires you want to dispose of? Go for it. That
listeners, if you own a goat and you've seen it eat a tin can, we want to hear from you. Yellowjackets at baldmove.com.
Mm-hmm.
So many goats. People own goats. You know,
what do you need to muck a barn when you got goats? Just have the goats eat it.
It's true. Right? True. Put some salt and pepper on it. They'll just eat it up.
God. Boy, that's a horrible mental image.
Question. When Shauna was going on and on about, I feel like I'm so unsympathetic. She's going on and on about how a real life trauma had caused a rift between her relationship and her family. She couldn't even bond with her daughter. Jesus Christ, this woman won't shut up about it. Do you think she said that like, I was held my daughter at arm's length all her life out of fear that she would die, or that she's not even real to begin with? Is this red meat for the like Lost-esque alternate reality wrong timeline theorists that like Shauna knows at some level that this isn't the reality that she's supposed to be in?
Mm-hmm. I guess it could be, if you want to interpret it that way. I'm interpreting it more as like, we're probably going to see the baby's corpse disappear, much like Crystal's did. And then Shauna's going to have to like question her own sanity.
Might hear it crying still, the way Mari's hearing water trickling in the cabin, which is still what the fuck.
Yeah. Am I hallucinating this? Did this actually happen? Who knows? And I think it's fitting that we haven't heard anything about it in the current timeline, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't actually know if it's real. Maybe this is all hallucination. I mean, the Jackie stuff was happening only a few episodes ago. That definitely wasn't real. So who knows? Yeah. All right, Lisa talks Misty into the float tank where she realizes that she loves Walter with the help of her pet bird, Caligula. When she gets out of the tank, she calls Walter and apologizes to his voicemail.
What a scene. Oh my God.
Can I say first, before we get into the very good parts of this scene, Misty apparently uncomfortable with nudity because she uses one of the loner swimsuits. Maybe that's why she didn't want to get in. The nudity.
But she was offered the loner suit right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe she's afraid of both nudity and loner swimsuits. Because I'm afraid of loner swimsuits.
I would take nudity over loner, but I'm not a never nude. You're saying Misty's a never nude?
Or maybe she's both. Maybe she's like, well, I really don't want to get nude, but I also don't want to wear these horrible pubic lice infected swimsuits that these hippies
you're really
have.
Painting a picture here. I want to respectfully put forward that I don't see anything wrong with putting Christina Ricci in a swimsuit and getting her into a wet tank and seeing her just fucking emerge from it. That was that I like that.
Bold statement. Bold.
I also think that I like how she really made a meal of Misty easing herself into the water too. Like I just love how she just like, like she's just like, like her hair, oh God, my hair's getting wet. And then when the lights went out, there was just like these flickers of hallucinations and stuff. And then she's like, oh, I'm freaking out. And then I'm like, I wonder where they're going to go with this. And then the fucking Caligula stuff and the Elijah Wood doing the vaudeville soft shoe.
There's something super amateur about the way this is shot, and I think it's intentional. I think this is the cheesy shit that goes on in Misty's head.
Yeah, sure.
She's like, she wants to be a really good actor, but she's not.
Oh.
And so like there's this half-ass production going on in her head where the entire stage is not lit. It's in pure darkness. You can't see in the background. Like they're doing weird shit, like almost totally obscuring her through most of it, with giant birds dancing around her and in very cheesy, like, oh, well, they just took this and mirrored it. And like, there's nothing super fancy happening here. It's all kind of low budget, bad production, amateur hour compositing
shit. But I don't know. It also felt like about the level of quality you get from like, a Big Lebowski fantasy sequence. I take that back. Yeah, but it's the broadcast basic cable, premium cable.
This might be public
second
access.
Tier premium cable version.
This is the public access version, I think. Yeah. But I like it. It makes sense for Misty, right? Because she's not as good of an actor as she thinks. She's not as stable and fine as she thinks. It's all of a piece.
I thought John Cameron Mitchell was a great choice to play Caligula. He got, as far as I can tell, his start in the 2001 Hollywood production of the 1999 musical Hedwig and the Angry Itch. And I've seen him mostly play, like, if you need to cast a millennial woman's bitchy gay boss at a blog.
Okay.
If you got a Hannah Hovarth that needs some tyrannical Manhattan guy just breathing over her neck, or you got like some Hulu show, like that's the guy. That's the guy. He might be your best friend. He might be a villain. I think that's the perfect gear that Caligula should operate at.
All right. Yeah, I don't know this dude. I don't think I've seen him in anything, but
You
sure,
had to.
he nailed it.
Like I said, I know. Didn't you watch Shrill? That like 80 Bryant. Did you not? That Hulu show?
I might have watched the first episode of that.
Because he was her boss of the e-zine on that one, and he was the boss of, I forget what e-zine that Hannah worked for, and Girls. He's I feel like I've seen it. He might even been in like one of the Marvel productions, the Marvel Netflix things in that capacity. But yeah, I don't know. He's just got a like. I loved him with the beak and the nails, and just him. It seems like this is also her id talking to her. Like, I feel like she's the type of person that would like read a Wikipedia article and be like, you know what? Caligula didn't get a fair shot. You know, I've done some reading, and it turns out that a lot of, you know, we only got 2 sources from antiquity that says anything about him. And it turns out that a lot of times when people were making comments on poor governance, they sexed it up with a bunch of, and then yeah, he's that whole Malcolm. What the hell, McDowell? That was a whole bunch of slander. And Caligula's good, actually. Like, she seems like that type of like internet conspiracy person.
I mean, they're doing a whole like roadshow tour of the controversial and potentially horrible people that Misty idolizes, right? Like Jack Kevorkian.
True. And there's always like a side to it that's like, well, you got a point, right? You know, Jack Kevorkian, he's Dr. Suicide, but like also, yeah, you know, euthanasia, got some complex feelings about that.
Sure.
Probably an element of truth about Caligula too, as far as I did some Wikipedia reading of my own.
But yeah, they're definitely they're leaning into that, and I love it.
Yeah. And then you got the what do you call that? The telegraph, the Morse code message that was being sent. Yeah,
with the phone tones, I guess.
Yeah, I think most people would guess it if you gave them three chances, but it literally spells out "I love you."
Oh, they were doing actual Morse code with that?
They were doing actual Morse code. Oh, okay. Yeah. Dot dash dash.
I got it from the heart around her head. But
that's what I'm saying. They used mini medium to tell that message, but it was cute because it's also cool.
I like that.
Like, I think at some level she would love to be proposed to in the form of a murder mystery. And the fact that like he communicated this in code in her dream is just like, you know, shows how much they're you know, how deep their bond goes, I guess.
Yep. The other thing I noticed is she has memorized his phone number, which is crazy to me. It's like I don't know your phone number. My phone knows your phone number.
Oh, I know.
Seriously, I don't know
the last person's phone number
anymore.
I memorize is my father's because he's had the same phone number for like 25 years, and that was pre cell phone book. Yeah. Everybody else is done.
If you needed a sign that Misty was not right in the head, that is it. She is memorizing essentially strangers' phone numbers at this point.
Well, but she also does things like memorize their credit record in case she needs to roll tough on a hotel manager. She's like, the level of preparedness she goes into relatively common daily interactions. Yeah, it made a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
All right, let's go back to 96, where Misty is unable to find Crystal's body at the bottom of the cliff. She does find Coach, though, at the top of the cliff, looking like he's going to jump. She tries various methods of talking him down. He decides not to go through with it when she breaks down crying and begging him not to do it, because she doesn't want another death on her hands.
Yeah.
Where'd Crystal's body go? Animals? The wilderness?
Animals? I mean, obviously, I'm looking for an explanation, and I feel like, yeah, animals. Like,
but there aren't animals. They've been hunting this area for months. There are no animals to be found. How could an animal big enough to take a body of a human being,
like a pack of coyotes,
be spotted
they're
by
hunting
Travis
coyotes?
You think? And they wouldn't find the tracks everywhere, know that they were in the area, and be hunting them? I don't know, man. With no game out there, it's hard to imagine. Would I eat a coyote?
Eat anything if you're that hungry. And they missed a whole ass white moose for months and months and months until it froze in a lake solid. And so it's like there's the thing is like they're when we say they're hunting, what we're saying is just two teenagers that go out each day and walk around, half the time looking for Travis, half the time trying to keep an eye out for an animal. Like I do wonder, you know, if they were a little bit better equipped and, you know, had a little bit more of a plan, if they could do better. But yeah, like that's the most. Is it possible? Is that a frozen lake, or is that just like
the shithole? I think. Yeah, the toilet is just a cliff. I think
it's just a cliff. Because I thought maybe that was a frozen lake. Because the other idea I had is like maybe the ice shifted somehow, cracked, and then like the body sunk in and then refroze.
Maybe. I'm trying to remember. I know there's like a lot of rocks and stuff at the bottom, and I'm trying to remember what it looked like before it was like super covered with snow. But
it was also it would have been absolutely frozen either way. But no, the only thing I think is if someone else came to move it, or an animal, or the wilderness.
Wilderness took it. The wilderness made a trade. Wilderness doesn't do that.
Misty snubbed her nose at eating her friend's corpse, and the wilderness, like, they have a strict it's like a 5-minute rule. You can't leave food on the ground for more than 5 minutes or it takes it back.
You think her body's going to show up anywhere? You think somebody's going to find it? Because that's what I'm worried about, is that they'll find it.
I find this show frequently does the most interesting thing without any care to how to make it make sense. Like, the legal jeopardy that they're put Shauna in seems like she's going to have to go to jail.
Potentially,
but they also have the escape door of, like, maybe they can stick Jay with this, you know, the pervin on Shauna's daughter. I don't know. I don't know, because, like, like, what's the most interesting thing to happen? Is the most interesting thing to happen that, like, Misty starts hallucinating a dead crystal? It's like a telltale heart type of situation. Is it most interesting that other girls find her body? Because, like, the thing is, like, if they find her body broken at the bottom of that cliff, I mean, maybe Mara says you pushed her, but I think most people would be like, well, you got separated in blinding snow and you just walked off the cliff, because how the fuck wouldn't you? Right. But if the body's moved, that's the weird, that's the one I can't account for that. And is there going to be any explanation for, like, because Misty said she was overcome by grief and need to go back to the cabin, and she turned out to go to Coach Lookout and talk him off of the cliff, literally threaten him, bully him off the cliff. But she left a ton of footprints and tracks and everything all down that. Like, is anyone to ask, like, I thought you were going to mourn your friend and you had to get home. What the fuck are you doing searching at the base of the shit cliff, Misty?
I had to shit. I know the buckets were full.
No one had gotten a dump, so I just dumped myself.
Yeah. I mean, why not? The thing that stands out to me here is how she reacts to seeing Coach's deep depression here. It's not with a loving message, a comforting word. It's with a threat. She threatens him. She's blackmailing him into not jumping off this cliff. That is not normal. That's not what you do.
And the thing is I don't think she gives to the thing that she finally lands on that actually hits him, which is what a normal person probably would have said off the top of the bat, is the one thing I think is false. I don't think she gives a shit about that. I don't think she cares about the fact that she killed Shauna's baby, and I think she just at some level still loves Coach.
Interesting. See, I'm giving teenage Misty more credit than that. I'm saying that Misty does seek approval and she makes bad choices because of it, but she does feel remorse for the things that she does.
Or that she feels bad about
she has a line. She feels bad about it. She feels guilty. And
man, I have a hard time squaring that with her gleefully. Well, I guess that's because, like, Mara is right. If she cared about her friend, she'd be out looking for her, but she also knows that she's dead.
Yeah.
So I guess she could still be sad about that. And yeah, I guess that does track.
I might be giving her way too much credit, though. It's totally possible. Yeah.
It's just, it's funny because she goes for the things that would influence her. Like, deep down, she's afraid that she's got this inner core that's rotten, and if everyone knew about it, and she's just desperately trying to find Coach's button, right? You know, when you
and
die,
I love where she lands on that.
I'm gonna eat your ass. I'm gonna eat your delicious ass. And you know what? I'm gonna tell everybody about how much you want to fuck me. In fact, you got Shauna pregnant. You want to impregnate us all. I'm gonna tell your parents you're gay, which is the one thing that's like, fucking, would you please?
Right?
Misty, would you push me off the cliff and then tell my parents? That would be, honestly, whoo, you are Dr. Kevorkian. You're my personal Dr. Kevorkian. And then she lands on the, I can't be responsible for 2 deaths in one day. But it's a fucked up a palooza because they're both like, you know, I get that he thinks that Misty's probably insane or has got a screw loose, but him asking her to push him off is a hell of a thing for a guy in his position to do.
Yeah, I mean, he's down. He's low, man. He's as low as he's ever been.
He doesn't want to be around anymore. He's got too much shit on him.
Yeah, for sure. And it's sad at the end of this scene because he feels bad for this person who a moment ago was trying to blackmail him, threatening him. I feel bad for Coach in this scene for sure. Not just because he's in a place where he thinks that like ending his life is a solution to anything, but because then he's sort of suckered by this girl, or not. If not suckered, then at the very least he's like prolonging his own pain because she's feeling pain, and he feels bad for that. But does she really feel the pain? I'm not sure. She's Misty. She might be acting.
It's tough. It's tough to say. Like, is she capable of like normal human relations? Is there something off in that? Is it the different things that she's been through? Was she like this naturally? Does she need to be under? Yeah, I have many questions. Or is she going to be like, you know, like some of these serial killers where it's like they appear to be sane except for they just like killing people?
Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to current day where Ty is ditching her ring out in the courtyard where she finds Van drinking. She joins her and they start making out, and then Van stops, tells Ty, I have cancer and only months to live. And then the rest of them show up and invite them inside.
There's a lot of pent up passion in that kiss.
Oh yeah.
Couldn't help but notice, like when that thing gives like sudden and fast and hard.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see where they go, like once they get back from the wilderness. Honestly, more so than to see like how that relationship develops in the wilderness, because they've clearly been estranged for ages. How did that happen? Well, we'll see. And we've already kind of talked about the irony and of the purpose of her life in this scene,
right?
And her having cancer and all that.
And Ty asks all these questions like, why didn't you tell? And she has very good answers about like, you know, what would you do? Have your staff send me flowers, or, you know, you show up and then I have to see this face, which I don't want to see. This like, oh God, but also you can tell that the Van's struggling too. Like, when Van says, you know, that I might have just months, like she kind of breaks, like maybe she's in a little bit of denial, and she's like literally treating her cancer like the bills. Like, well, if it comes due, it comes due. You wonder. And
this is all said in the acting. I think the actors are doing a great job here.
God, yeah, and the channeling the young Vi and this, and I know she had an advantage of the other girls who already were excellent, and that she was able to see the entirety of season 1 to kind of really tailor her performance if she chose to do so. But like, I think it's another home run casting and performance, and them aping each other.
Lottie tells her therapist that the wilderness wants the team to be together, and she says she's terrified, and the therapist tells her to embrace the darkness, and that's when she realizes she's not been talking to her therapist at all. It's been talking to herself, I suppose.
For how long? Like, there is a line a couple episodes ago where she says her regular therapist was on a retreat, couldn't. Yep.
That's
and
it.
in last episode, they pointedly didn't show the therapist's face. It turns out that they had shown the therapist's face in the episode before this, but like I was kind of on to like, I wonder if this is a. So when the scene showed her face, I'm like, oh fuck, I guess we was wrong. And then 30 seconds later, the antler queen is there. I'm like, fuck, I get theories back on the table.
Totally.
I wonder for how long, because to me, if this has been going on for a month or two, it mirrors the timeline of the wilderness, where like Lottie started off fairly normal, and then as these things started happening and her medicine worked her way out of her system, like all of the visions and stuff started to come back. And it seems like if that is true, that she self-sabotaged. She gave herself, like some part of herself gave herself permission to go off medication and to... Well, I guess she never said she went off. It's just like her medicine's not working anymore. But I'm going to take that as that she stopped taking her medicine, and her therapist, who's been saying, yeah, no brakes, all gas, turns out it's just another figment of her imagination.
Yeah. And they've been paying really good attention to how they were kind of unspooling this information, because last time we said something feels off about this therapist, and it's not just they're not showing her face, but the way she's kind of encouraging her to explore these issues without the medication was strange. And now the way that they kind of lead into it in this scene, where she's like, you know, it's exciting but terrifying, and the therapist is like, well, have you considered giving into the darkness? You're like, oh no, something is really wrong here. This is either a very bad therapist or this is not what we think it is. And turns out it's the latter. They did a great job with that. I felt the ominous nature of their conversation before I realized exactly what was happening.
Yeah, I just love that phrase, can a hunt that has no violence feed anyone? Like, that's such a... such an insane but cool thing to say.
It makes me wonder, what is the context for that line? Is the wilderness hunting them? Is the wilderness the one on the hunt, or is she the one on the hunt?
Or the fact that, like, if hunting is the way you feed your people, like, that is inherently violent. You cannot...
Oh, totally, yeah. I'm just like trying to get the proper context, because the wilderness might very well be hunting them, and they got away by being rescued somehow, and now it's still been on their track, and now it's just catching up with him.
Still love to know the circumstances of the rescue and how that all went down. Because we we know, you mentioned this earlier in the episode, and it jogged my memory, that you're about like, you know, at some point these girls all scattered to the wind, now they're back together, but like, when did that happen? And they gave us a clue a couple episodes ago where Ty and Van were talking about being at Shauna and Jeff's wedding, which implies that there was a attempt to return to normalcy, where it's like, oh yeah, apparently Jeff and them got married pretty young, and all the Yellowjackets are invited, and a good number of them attended. So it wasn't like they got back from the wilderness and like Lottie went to Switzerland and Van went to Ohio and Taissa went to New York to start running. Like there was a period where they tried to kind of make things work as a group, or they didn't completely abandon each other. Like what did eventually split them up? How did that go down? Yeah. Or was that going to the wedding just like something that Shauna tried to do to save the fragmentation and it didn't work? Like, I'm taking that as like, well, that's something normal. You invite your friends to the wedding, but it might be like, oh God, I haven't spoken to them for 5 years. I should invite them to the wedding, right? It'd be weird not to. And then...
Yeah, like what's the cutoff? So I was thinking about this in terms of Van's cancer. What's the cutoff for telling someone who you haven't spoken to in a certain amount of time that you have cancer? So someone who meant a lot to you, but you've drifted apart. What is the cutoff? Is it a year?
I think 5 years,
20 years
is probably a lot. I can't imagine not talking to someone for 20 years and being like, hey, I know we haven't said anything, but...
Right. That's crazy.
I got a couple months to live, and I thought you'd want to know. Like, damn.
Why did you think I'd want to know? We haven't spoken in 20 years. We're effectively strangers. I like that she points that out. Like, we don't know each other.
I mean, it's definitely an ask for support, and probably unwarranted. Like, I know you don't owe me anything,
sure,
but... I really want you to say something nice about me, or, you know, it's like that. That's what it would feel like to me coming back from 20 years and just being like, hey, I'm dying.
Anyway, let's go to Nat wanting to talk with the team about what they've learned over the day's therapy. They're drinking and they just want to hang out. So Nat goes with it. Lottie shows up, tells them it's all time to go home. But they invite her to hang out, and she does. And they drink and they dance and they reminisce, but in a serious Nat way, not in a casual Misty way. We get another Florence and the Machine song here that they're dancing to, which is, upbeat and happy. And I think we're going to get another Florence song at the end that's less so.
Yeah. I think I thought the scene was really interesting because there's a lot of like just bad stuff happening. Like the fact that they're trying to get Natalie to drink is kind of insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I thought it was interesting that like Lottie is resisting this. She kind of is, and it's kind of half fighting. But when they finally get in and the Free by Florence, the machine kicks in and they're drinking and they're partying. If you examine the girls' faces and individual, or the women's faces in as individuals, like there's some points where like I thought I saw Ty, Lottie, and Shauna especially. I couldn't tell whether they were about to laugh or cry. Where it's one of those things where it's like they're laughing, but it kind of like there's something strange. And I don't know if it's just me, but I felt like there was this kind of like double layer to all of this. And the song Free by, if you listen to the lyrics, is not exactly a completely bubbly song.
Oh no.
And it's about like the relationship between like fear of failure and anxiety and creativity, and how it's a push-pull that like, you feel like a piece of shit. It pushes you down and then, but it lifts you up. And it, I thought there was definitely that. This is on the surface. This is like a Hallmark commercial of, girls getting together and spending girl time, and they're laughing and they're joshing and they're drinking and they're joking, but then they're also like barely containing their rage and their grief too. There's
and it's all
sinister about
intercut
it.
with the part of the scene we haven't talked about, which is Shauna beating the shit out of Lottie in 1996.
That too. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty dark. It is, at least in its juxtaposition, for sure. So, some of the funnier stuff that I liked about this scene is when Lottie finds out that Nat and Kevin slept together. She's like, "Oh, what was that like?" And that's like, "Well, he wasn't goth when we fucked." What is that saying about goth guys and the way they fuck?
I see how the goth guys are publicly conceived to dance.
Okay.
Maybe there's this something overly dramatic and yet goofy about the way they make love. I don't know. Never fucked a goth.
I haven't either.
I can only speculate.
At least they weren't goth when we fucked.
And again, I just like, it's another where Misty tries to bring up their, like Van says, you just want to casually reminisce about a time in oblivion. And then like a beat, and Nat's like, how much, actually guys, let's talk about how much did you get? And they just freely start talking about their hazy and like, yeah, like this Misty just gets shit on.
That's what I mean. Like they don't like the way Misty brought the subject up. So they shit on her and then bring it up themselves. It feels very cliquey, like she's on the outside. And the rest of them are more in sync.
There's also something interesting where like Lottie's still trying to be a therapist, like, as the girls are saying some stuff that's like toxic or wrong, she's trying to push back on them. Like, Sean's like, I'm all for just burying this shit and forgetting about it. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense, but these things you repress manifest in addictions and compulsions and all this other and
illnesses, diseases, right?
Yeah,
which Van triggers Van. She gets up.
Yeah, and she's like, well, there's a lot of research that an ecstatic state, there's like you're feeling too much, so your memories get, and she keeps on trying to give like, I think, this grounded therapeutic response, but the girls are just not. They're really encouraging, just let go, like literally just give in. I think they actually say that word, like you should just stop resisting, and that's dangerous to tell someone like Lottie.
Yeah, totally. There are some interesting dynamics going on, because it's not just that like they don't want to talk about this or think about it in those analytical ways, because Misty definitely is. Like when I'm hearing Lottie say things like, "Oh, your damage manifests in ways that you might not understand," she's like kind of looking at the floor, pondering what she's saying, and I think that's the best indication we have this entire episode that some of this quote unquote therapy has gotten through to her. That float tank session has maybe like pierced at least one layer of that armor she has.
Interesting.
Because I don't think she gives this conversation the time of day 2 episodes ago. But now seeing Lottie's compound, going through this weird Caligula experience, she's at least thinking about the words that Lottie is saying.
Maybe because like I think that Misty would have jumped at a chance to get with the girls a drink. Like,
sure.
But actually letting any of it sink in, that's interesting.
At least that's what I was reading from her expression.
The other thing that there's a little brief sidebar where Ty offers a hope to Van and potentially us as an audience, because Van's one of my favorites. Is like, hey, I know a specialist at Johns Hopkins. You know, like one of the big swinging dicks in the medical world, like where everyone knows that like this is where the cutting edge stuff. Yeah, if the president needs an oncologist, you're probably going to go there. Is that a real hope, or is this because like Van dismisses it as bullshit? But if I had a wealthy patron that was powerful and offered me an oncologist job, I'd fucking take it. I would take that second opinion.
Alternative, she can start cooking meth.
True.
She can refuse the offer.
Yeah. I know you're so. I know. Look, listen, Lottie. I know you got this honey thing going, and it's okay. It's okay. But as a person who's starting to dabble in drugs, let me tell you, there's better product out there.
Yeah, I've got some shit. It's 99.9% pure.
Just go to poppies. Fuck with your methylamine. Just go just go heroin, straight heroin.
Sure. Why not? I hope it's a real possibility because, like you, I very much like Van, and I'd like to see her stick around. So, yeah, we can only hope. And of course, this is where Lightning Crashes is playing, and it's less relevant to the current day stuff that's happening and more relevant to the 96 stuff that's happening, or maybe relevant to the way they're both interacting here. Where Lottie lets Shauna kick the shit out of her to get her anger out, and then Shauna goes outside, dips her bloodied knuckles into what I can only describe as a pile of soap shavings and foam, because the snow is so bad in these scenes.
at least it's hygienic then, right? She's dipping. You know, those soap flakes are just gotta sting though.
Yeah, but they'll clean. Hard to believe that Lottie's going to come through this unscathed
with all of her teeth intact. That's what I'm.
Her jaw, her
orbital bone,
occipital lobe.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a thing. Like her face is just destroyed in this scene.
Beat
like
in.
Almost as bad as Van's was.
Yeah,
and Van has lifelong scars. So
yeah.
I don't know what the magic they're doing out there in the wilderness to repair her face, but they did.
They was careful not to have too many cuts, and that she did seem like she retained all of her teeth, even though she did not defend herself.
Nope.
She was like late round Rocky Balboa, just taking those hits right to the face. And I was impressed by how long it went on. It felt like Quentin Tarantino in its overindulgence, where it's like when they showed like the curtains of blood spraying, I'm like, oh, they're. It's wild because I felt like they were telling the story of her beating her to death.
Yeah, it really did.
But she can't because she's
obviously
she's alive in the present day. So
or
it's like,
could she? So there was a moment where I was thinking, does she kill Lottie and then Lottie just shows back up at some point?
Or is this like the first real evidence that we have of a completely bifurcated timeline where it's like,
oh, there's
a timeline where people died and a timeline where people didn't, and who's on the right versus the wrong? And I don't know. I don't know how.
But they don't go either of that.
I've given my heart to a lot of puzzle box shows lately. I got Silo, I got Yellowjackets, I got Severance in rotation. Like the odds that none of them are going to let me down are very small. Yeah. But yeah, I hope that
they get hurt.
I hope that they at least pull off some of these landings.
And then finally, in the current day, Shauna gets an emergency call from Jeff, who says the cops found Adam's body. And the first thing Shauna asks, which I like when she picks up this phone, is Callie okay?
Yep.
And I think that shows you where her head is at, how effective this therapy has been on her.
Yeah, no, she's taking a genuine motherly interest in Callie.
Even when the emergency call from Jeff is almost certainly related to the murder investigation that she's currently the center of, right?
But why would she think that? She would probably, like, her first, like, concern would be something happened with Callie. Maybe around that investigation.
That's a normal mother's reaction, but I don't think that's a normal Shauna reaction. I think this represents a change in Shauna.
Okay,
right?
yeah. I'll go with that. Does this look bad on Misty's actual knowledge of murder? Because she held that the torso meant nothing. Remember, she was like,
they burned the head and the hands,
cut off the head and
right?
the hands. The torso means nothing. I saw some people on the subreddit pointing out that Adam had like prominent tattoos on his back and I think chest.
Oh no!
Did Misty just not know about? And then like I'm just trying to think of next episode if Shauna's like, Misty, you said the torso didn't mean anything, and she's like, well, did he have any distinguishing birth marks or tattoos? Yeah, he had a giant back tattoo. And Misty's like, you didn't say anything about it, but it's like, you didn't ask. Like you said the torso meant nothing. Like what the fuck? But.
Yeah,
I didn't think you'd fucking do the tattoos. Like, what? How is that conversation going to go? Because otherwise, it looks like Misty just doesn't know as much about police shit as she is purporting. Or you have to ask a lot of smart questions if you're accepting her help on crime.
Totally, yeah. And you maybe have to help her a little bit along the way. But what if his? We don't know that he has a horrible back tattoo. But what if his horrible back tattoo is the symbol? What kind of mind-blowing
I honestly couldn't tell if that would be the most awesome thing that would happen or the worst, because I kind of, I've been holding the candle for the theory that there is something more to Adam than we know, and it's that candle's starting to gutter and flicker out because we just haven't gotten anything from Adam that disproves the original hypothesis, which is Shauna just jumped the gun or jumped the knife. Yeah, I don't know, but I can't see how Misty talks her way out of looking like a fool in front of the group.
Yeah.
I also thought it was interesting how like Misty Steel Magnolia's monologue was prophetic, and that was about a woman losing her child, and the end of the monologue was like, just want to hit someone until they feel as bad as I do.
Right. Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens. But I don't know, Misty got it.
Should I watch Steel Magnolias? Is it prophetic for this show?
I tell you what, you watch Steel Magnolias, I'll read the Magus, and we'll find out.
There we go.
We'll both of us make one full co-host. What was I going to say about Misty or Shauna or somebody? It's probably not important. I thought it was really interesting how they juxtapose the scenes of Shauna delivering a savage beating with the older women running around the fire in the snow howling like wolves.
Yeah, coming back to that wild wilderness state.
It's all set to lightning. I still don't know what set Shauna off about lightning crashes. I'm not sure why I'm not sure why Misty started humming it, but
I think a lot of people think it's about a mother dying during childbirth.
Right.
And so I could see Shauna being set off by that in 1996.
But that's like the opposite. That's what happened. If you think Misty engineered a situation that's the opposite of the song, why would she sing this song?
Well, I imagine any childbirth, death related song would have probably set her off in that moment. Yeah. Misty's not going to be able to argue the finer points of, well, you didn't die in childbirth.
That's true. Yeah, and I guess it's just in general bad taste, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, how the fuck did the cops find these remains at Hacklebarney State Park? Did Misty just like whose job was it to dispose of the body? Because Misty disposed of the head and the hands. Like, what kind of half-ass job did they do burying this guy?
But I'm pretty sure Misty must have taken the body, right?
I get it. I don't, but so it's like, did she just colossally fuck up because that was like, what, a week ago?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, I don't think.
And the cops already found this random body? Yeah. It's bad. It's looking like a bad... Reddit's going to have a field day with this, Misty.
Yep.
The Concerned Citizens Detective Brigade is going to blow this thing wide open.
Walter can help her cover it up, I'm sure. That's where we're going, right?
What is Walter? Do we see Walter's reaction to this phone call? Because the phone call started off okay-ish. But then by the time she gets to the you hang up, no, you hang up, no, you hang up, and laughs like a maniac, does Walter get that that's disturbed, or is Walter disturbed enough that he thinks that's cool and cute?
He might think that's cute.
Walter. Yeah. What's Walter's deal?
I don't know. I hope we get more of him next time, because I miss Elijah Wood in this. I think he's a perfect pairing with Christina Ricci, and I want more of them together.
Indeed.
But that's it for the episode.
Yeah,
man.
That is it. If you would like to send us feedback, we will probably have another feedback special episode this week. Send that in to yellowjackets@baldmove.com with your latest theories, your thoughts, your opinions. If you have firsthand knowledge of what a goat can and cannot eat, we want to hear from you at yellowjackets@baldmove.com. That's going to do it for us this week until next. Oh, I also want to say that I'm going to be joining the Antler Queens podcast this week to talk about Burial. That episode will be out in a couple of days, and I'll be sharing that on our social media at twitter.com/baldmove and on my personal feed when that comes out. So if you want to hear some more thoughts and opinions about the Yellowjackets, check me out there. Yellowjackets@baldmove.com, and we will see you next week for the next episode. Until then, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Jim.
Later.